Hello, everybody. Welcome to my first video. Um, so the market just closed like an hour ago, and I was wondering what I should do with my time. I've been kind of enveloped in studying it and the patterns, looking at charts, all of that. So I thought it might be nice to maybe take a break and do something else with my time. So we're still going to be covering it, um, but I'm just going to be talking kind of out loud about my thoughts and going over what I've learned. So I got into trading about 6 months ago now. Not too long. I've been acquainted with the stock market for as long as I can remember. My mom is very financially savvy, and she had recently gotten into selling options and buying options. And that's another tangent I can talk about. But today I just wanted to cover three main things that trading has really taught me that I didn't expect at all when I first started trading, and how I applied them to my life, or how I plan to apply them to my life. And this is all personal experience. You guys might not agree, but like I said, just speaking out loud. So I have them written down here in case you see me looking down at a notebook. But the first thing it taught me was patience. And namely, that you can't force your will into something that is out of your control. So it might look like in trading, you make a bet that a stock will go up, and the stock could plummet, the stock could shoot up, or the stock could stay in the same place. And I read this book, Reminiscence of a Stock Operator. And in the book, he said that you can't be bullish on a stock just because you have it. And that really resonated with me because I feel like when you want something to happen and then you do the actions to support that result, you kind of have a bias toward that actually playing out in reality. And that's not at all how reality works. Of course, you can prep for it as much as you want and do things to make that result as likely as possible. But there are just some things that are out of your control. And so putting in all this effort into something that is ultimately not up to your control will only cause frustration and disappointment. And I learned that very early on. You can't will a stock to go up, just as you can't will someone to like you back, or you can't will um, just money flowing into your account. Whatever it is, whatever you want that is out of your control, you name it. I bet you're well acquainted with that. But with this, I guess the silver lining is that you can focus on what you can control. And that's a lot more manageable to do. I think it saves you a lot of frustration and pain and agony. Um, Learn from your mistakes, of course, even if you focus on what is in your control and it's a bad result. You can focus on what you can do better next time. Or maybe you did nothing wrong and that's just how it played out, which is fine too. Um, so don't drown in self doubt if you really feel like you did everything right and it still played out wrong. Um, Again, it's out of your control. You did what you could. You can only learn from your mistakes and focus on what you can control, and then just let the rest be. And that's it. But kind of a sub point into patience is I've learned that there are cycles to pretty much everything. There's a season for everything, as I wrote down. So in the market, in the market, there are bullish cycles, there are bearish cycles. Basically, a bullish cycle is when the stock prices generally go up. We're pretty much in a bullish cycle a vast majority of the time. But there are also bearish cycles where the stocks go down, and then each stock could have their own cycles. But there's a season for everything. Say you're in a stock and it's going up and you're making money, you're happy, you're doing good, and then a bearish cycle comes, or a bearish season comes. Um, it's no use fighting what you can't control, like I said earlier. And it's much better to learn to wait it out. There's a lot of times in my life where, you hear it all the time. People say you can either be on a mountain or in the valley. And life just kind of has the cycles of up and down and up and down. And what I've learned is that you can learn to be unbiased about which cycle that you're in. So obviously, everybody always wants to be up on the mountain, up on the hill. Um, and that's just not how life works. You know, there's always going to be seasons for what you do. And so it's better to not hate the valley, but see it as a period of growth where you can learn. And then, even if you can't learn from it, just sit tight and know and make peace with it and know that it's bound to change. It's going to change and you're going to enter another upcycle. And this is what I do a lot of the time when stocks I'm invested in start to decline or go down, lose value. And I used to really hate red days in the market, um, but I've learned to enjoy them. Now I see them as a time. I read a comment that better explains this than I would have. Uh, he said, I like red days. I see it where I'm taking my foot off the gas to shift gears to then go faster, to go higher. And I think you can apply this to the valley seasons of your life. You know, a lot of growth happens when there's friction internally or friction against the environment and your previous habits. And so using it as a time of acceptance and growth will propel you so much higher to a much higher peak than you would have reached had your entire life just been at the peak. And so really just knowing it'll change with time and making the most out of the current situation um, is the best outcome, I think, in a valley season of your life. The next point is probably one that's repeated a lot, but it's kind of easy to overlook. Is that money isn't the key to everything, but many people live their lives as if that is the main thing. Um, so when I first got into trading, I really saw how important money was to me. I'm not really materialistic. Um, I say that with many things in my life, many possessions. Of course, I am materialistic, but I didn't really see myself so tethered to money as I realized I was when I started trading. And it was just a very big eye opener for me. You know, on a red day, like I said, I saw the money start to fall, and immediately you start self doubting, you start worrying, oh my gosh, am I going to lose everything? And I just saw how important money was to me. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't care about it and everything's just sunshine and rainbows, because pretty much everything you do, right, revolves around money. It's the central currency to get what you want, services and goods. And so you can't just be like, okay, I don't care about money. I'm not going to go to work, or I'm not going to save enough in case an emergency comes. But I think just knowing where you stand with money in your mind, your relationship with it, is very important um, to pursuing your own happiness, and then also to kind of planning your future and giving yourself permission to enjoy the present rather than worrying so much about the future. And so I wrote down here, you know, it kind of dictated how much joy I'd let myself feel. It dictated what I planned my future career to be. And then you know, it can also dictate how generous you'd be. Um so something very important to me in my life is to be generous. And it can be really easy to be generous kind of in the mountainous, the top of the hill seasons, like I mentioned earlier. But it's a lot harder to be generous when you're in the valley. You know, you feel like you don't have enough. You have that scarcity mentality. And you might be right, you may not have enough. But I really don't want to be someone where I'd only be kind and generous if I have guaranteed enough for myself. Um, Looking at it objectively, I don't think I can argue anything wrong with that belief, but it's just not who I personally wanted to be. And so it was kind of a frustrating moment with myself when I realized, like, okay, I'm letting my mood and in turn my generosity dictate how freely I give to others. And it kind of just showed me that I was much more tethered to money than I thought I was. And knowing this, the first step into removing a bad habit or limiting thought or belief is the acknowledgement of it. And so, even if nothing else, if nothing changed in my behaviors or actions, my mind would know this about myself. And I think it's really valuable to understand that so that I can then change it knowing that going forward. Um, and also, the complete opposing side to that, when you're doing really good in the market, you're like, oh my goodness, this could be my career. And then you just start daydreaming about what if you do make a lot of money? What if this could be your career? What if you can provide for others and provide for your own needs with this? And it kind of just changes your entire perspective on life. Growing up, I kind of was always told that, there's a system to life that you have to go through. You can't deny it. You got to go to school, you got to get a job, and then use that job to, I guess, just save money and provide for others until you retire and then die. Um, but it's kind of insane to me how money centric that idea was. It was really eye opening to see just how much I thought life itself revolved around money and the acquisition of it. And, you do need money for rent, food, clothes, water, um, provide for your kids, provide for your significant other. And that's all true. But making that alone dictate every single thing about your life, it's it's putting money on an absurd pedestal that I couldn't even see it in. When I got into trading, I really thought that I might grow incredibly greedy, and I never really thought I put money on such a high pedestal before, but I thought that I might get addicted, to earning or to making a ton of money or to increasing my lifestyle. And I feel like it's the opposite, which is a crazy thing to say. It really showed me how much I was letting money influence my decisions. And, money is, of course, an aspect of life, but it's only one aspect. There's so much more to life than money. Doing something you love, doing something you're passionate about, helping other people. I love seeing people do things they're passionate about. I get really emotional sometimes watching shows, whether it's like an anime or a drama or just a movie, and just really thinking about the director or author's perspective on life that led them to portray this moment to the viewers. And then it kind of feels like everyone watching is participating with you, seeing an aspect of life through their lens. And just the ability to share something so intimate and personal with so many people and then cause them to feel emotional about it or have it influence them in such a heavy way. It's so amazing for me to think about. And I feel like passion far um it supersedes money. And so it'd be a very big shame to live with a money centric ideation about life that you miss things that we can do and are capable of doing and have the potential to do and enjoy and feel and experience, um, and go your entire life just not looking into that, not giving yourself the chance to experience it freely, and just always having a worry about money or how am I gonna monetize this go through your mind. Okay, it's getting a lot longer than I thought it would be, but on to the last point. And I think this might be arguably one of my favorites or the one that's helped me most in my personal life. And it's to be comfortable with uncertainty. And, as a trader, you have no clue what the market will do tomorrow. News could be released, geopolitical events could occur, investor sentiment may change about something. You genuinely have zero idea what the market will do tomorrow. And of course, you can always, study past trends and how the market reacted in certain situations and ways, but it's ultimately not up to you, linking back to the first point. And so we must continue anyway. The fact that we don't know what the market will do tomorrow doesn't stop people from investing, right? And I feel like you could apply that to your life in many things. You don't know what will happen tomorrow, but you can't let that information paralyze you, and you can't let that stop you from doing what you want to do, or maybe realizing your potential, or um, letting your dreams come to fruition. And so the past can't be changed and the future can't be predicted. And if those two things are true, that puts a lot of shift into the present, right? Into doing what you're doing now, into just putting all of your focus on the current moment rather than what happened before or what you think will happen. And I think it's much better to accept that uncertainty does and will always exist in your life. And knowing that, you can't then allow yourself to try to gather as much information in the present to make the future predictable. I think that brings about a lot of trying to think of the word. It's not information paralysis, analysis paralysis. That's what it is. So you can theorize about a ton of different things that could happen in the future, and you can try to collect as much information as possible about it and optimize all of your plans, sit down and write out a flow chart of if this happens, then I'll do this. If this happens, then I'll do this. It's much better, in my opinion, to accept uncertainty for what it is. It's very human and it's very natural. And it'll always, always be a part of your life. So instead of trying to ignore it, instead of trying to run from it, instead of trying to overcome it with information, I think it's much better to accept it, be at peace with it, and understand since it'll always be there, I can't let it stop me from acting today, or at least getting closer to an outcome that I would like to happen in the future. But that is the 3 points that I have prepared for today. There's so much more that I've learned, and even with these 3 points, there's so much more that I could talk about with them. But I just wanted to kind of share something that I learned that I never expected to learn with trading, especially because I was so reluctant to go into it because I thought I might lose my groundedness. But it's incredible what things can teach you when you least expect it. And so my last little message, I'd encourage everyone to keep an open mind about the season they're in, even if they're in a valley, to make peace with uncertainty and with the cycle of life that they're in right now, to focus on only what you can change and control. Don't go down the slippery slope of thinking that you can control everything by controlling one thing. And to to live for the present. Of course, prepare for the future and make smart decisions and choices, but you can't let preparing for the future take up your entire present. Time is not infinite, and the faster you make peace with uncertainty and the seasons that your life can go through, I think you'll enjoy the present a lot more. You'll enjoy your life a lot more. And yeah, keep an open mind, keep learning, try to love what you do and what you're going through, and help others through something similar if you can. But I hope you guys have a nice rest of your day, rest of your evening, rest of your night, and I'll see you in the next one.